Welcome to Naturally Off Topic, a podcast where we discuss legends, theories, crimes, and more. I'm Mariah.
And I'm Megan, and today we're discussing the legend of Krampus. Oh, so sorry. Okay, what's up, guys? Really struggling to get this podcast started, or at least I am, your co-host Megan, because I have a cat that won't stop jumping on my laptop.
And our third co host, Milo, is just chilling by my side as I just sit on the couch, drink a little beve, and cuddle with the corgi.
I know, he's finally got it down. Milo has been the mascot of our podcast since the podcast started, and he's finally, I think, learned. Like he's finally like, all right, I'm not gonna bark during the segments. I'm not gonna. Whereas my demon of an animal decides to like literally attack me as I'm trying to record.
Cut to an hour into this podcast, and Milo's freaking the fuck out.
Oh
And I'm
my
like, damn
gosh.
it.
I know. Ugh. Well, we have a great topic for you guys today, and obviously because tis the season, it's Christmas. So I brought Krampus to the table. Are you ready for this, Mariah?
He's getting so crunk right now.
I
I
am
am ready because like my understanding of Krampus is I used to work at a movie theater. It was called Smitty's,
I've
and
heard of that.
they had this movie come out while I worked there called Krampus. I believe it was called Krampus. Regardless, it was about him and it was a horror movie. So, from my understanding, it's like the evil version of Santa Claus. Is that correct?
Kind of. We're gonna get into it. There's actually a lot of small nuances that are a lot different than what you expected of what Krampus is and what he stands for. So,
Cool.
I wrote a lot down. Mariah, imagine it's Christmas Eve. You're nestled in your bed. There's holiday lights filling the room, and you have visions of presents and all things good dancing in your mind about Christmas. But this year is a little different because you weren't a good girl this year. Instead of going on Santa's nice list, you're on Santa's naughty list. And instead of having Santa come down the chimney, there is another evil companion that is Krampus who is going to come and take you out in the middle of the night because you didn't do good deeds this year. And he's going to
Oh,
beat you with
fuck.
sticks.
Wait, what?
Christmas is about to get dark as fuck. So, once upon a time, deep in a snow-laden forest of the Alpine regions, a shadowy figure prowled the icy paths as winter's longest night fell, his name being Krampus. His very name derives of a German word called Krampen, meaning claw, which we will learn later on is a very fitting name for this creature. But his story is actually one of ancient tradition, mingling with fear, festivities, and light. So, before we get into the actual topic of Krampus, what needs to be understood is that Krampus itself, along with Saint Nick and Christmas, is a religious time, right? So, long before Christmas even started, there was an ancient rite celebrating the winter solstice, which is the darkest night of the year. For the people who face the harshness of winter's chill, this was time, one of survival, and a lot of people, especially, in this time, were waiting for the sun to come back. Legends tell us that Krampus is the son of Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld. Hel, the daughter of the trickster god Loki, ruled a realm called, and I'm so sorry, I'm so gonna butcher this name, Nephium, a place where shadow and cold, where dead were found, and so basically the underworld, so hell. So again, very religious tie here. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how where Krampus kind of came about. And unlike the fiery punishment of the Christian hell that we kind of know, Hell's underworld was a world of balance where deeds were determined one's fate. So, kind of like what I had said when I opened up this segment, Krampus would take the naughty and drag them out of their house. So, in some instances, as part of this legend, he would drag them back to hell or to hell, Hel, his mom, in her
What?
sorry, her underworld.
Hel?
That's how you spell like the
Like,
Krampus's mom's name, Hel, like hell, but not like hell, like the
really
devil's hell.
interesting.
Yep.
Is
So
this, and if you're gonna answer this later, feel free to ignore this question. Is this like in the Bible?
this story, no, this is actually part of the winter solstice. Well, story that I'm talking about is the winter solstice, and the legend states that Hell was, his mom. This isn't like, what did you ask, like Christianity? Like,
Yeah, like if it's like similar to Christianity, because you bring up like it being similar to hell and stuff. So I was curious if like this entity is in the Bible at all. Like I've just
actually, he's
heard of
not.
it being, yeah, no.
He's
I
not.
don't
And
know.
actually,
I'm sure anybody who knows the Bible can tell like I'm a fucking idiot when it comes to it because Krampus is not a part of it.
yeah, and like honestly, so when he kind of this legend kind of evoked farther, as as history tells, um the Catholic Church and Christianity actually were trying to say like no, like Krampus isn't a thing, like relax, like, because they didn't want that. They wanted people obviously to believe in, excuse me, Lucifer, the devil who we do know as the devil in the Bible. So, but, and that's funny, I'm about to go into Christianity. So, as Christianity spread across Europe, it tried to banish Krampus and other pagan symbols. So, the winter solstice and Krampus was, it's not actually clear when he was derived from. They do think, however, that it was like fourth century, pagan pre-Christian era. So, when the church kind of got involved, they were trying to banish the idea of Krampus. So that's actually really funny that I just answered your question right
I
as
know, right? So
right.
like so paganism, like the witch thing, is that it?
So I didn't really look too deep into pagans. I do know that like I don't think they're necessarily witches. I think there's more to it. And I'm only saying that because what I learned about this and Krampus, like there's a lot of religious biases against like what the religion's about. So I don't know if paganism is necessarily in like a bad, like witchy, like devil worshiper kind of people. I think it's just a different religion than
Oh
like
yeah.
very, very different than, what we've experienced as Christians or
From
black
my understanding of peg, I don't know how to pronounce it without it being, I don't know the correct terminology, but paganism.
people.
Um,
Paganism.
I was under the impression that like they have a bad rap, but they're like actually really cool and like it's all about nature and whatnot.
Right.
So
I think I've heard that too. And,
yeah.
so the reason why Krampus is so important and kind of like as we're getting into this is that there's this clash of light and dark, right? You have this Santa figure who's supposed to bring good, happy things to the world, where you have this his dark counterpart Krampus who's bringing kind of, well, punish you for your bad deeds. So this is where things get a little interesting. So every year on the night of December 5th, which we don't celebrate here in the US, but well, maybe we do. I don't really know. But Krampusnacht, the beastly figure emerges, his twisted horns silhouetted against the winter moons. He has chains around him as he trudges through the snow, birch branches in hand, ready to swat those kids. But legend says that he actually travels with Saint Nicholas, who delivers gift to the good, whereas Krampus, he's there for the naughty. So those who have misbehaved tremble as they hear the scrape of his claws at the door. The fortunate receive a beating with his birch sticks. The truly unfortunate, however, are dragged to the underworld, never to be seen again. And next morning, on December 6th, St. Nicholas Day, Children awakened either presents, bruises, depending on how they fared.
Wow.
Yep. So December 5th, especially in the Alpine region, so we're talking like Germany, Austria, like those areas, they don't really celebrate Christmas exactly the way we do. So we always say, and I'm going to get into this like a little bit more, but just to kind of give you some perspective, Saint Nicholas is not the same person as Santa. They're two different entities. Saint Nicholas actually was a person who lived, and that's why he got Saint Nicholas Day. He became an actual saint, like of the Catholic and Christianity. So on December 5th, the night before Saint Nicholas Day, the legend says is that, Saint Nicholas will come deliver the gifts. And on the 6th of December, on actual Saint Nicholas Day, that's where people get gifts and the naughty get the beating from Krampus. So Krampus doesn't even come on the 25th. It's actually the 5th of December.
I didn't even know. Like Megan's looking at me and my mouth is like ajar because I didn't even realize that Saint Nicholas and Santa wasn't the same thing. I literally made a joke earlier in this podcast, like saying, "Oh, Saint Nicholas, Saint Krampus, or whatever."
Yeah, it's very misconstrued. That's why this case, well, this isn't a case.
This case.
This
Krampus is coming out tonight, guys.
yeah, Krampus, he be coming. Actually, it's the third, so you got two
I
more
was just thinking
days.
that. I was like, oh my God, wait, what? That's literally like 2 days from now. Because I was like, we're recording this really prematurely, but when this podcast episode comes out, it'll be past Krampus Day. So if y'all are here listening, that means you survived the sticks.
You did. You did. You really did. So you survived the beating. So, and I'm about to get into this now. So, to understand Krampus fully, we have to explore Saint Nicholas, the kind-hearted saint whose story stands out in very stark contrast to Krampus. He was a figure rooted in the fourth century Myra, which is now Turkey. Saint Nicholas became known for his acts of generosity and miracles. He gave dowries to the impoverished girls to save them from a life of hardship. And in one chilling tale, he resurrected children who had been slaughtered by an evil butcher. So take that with a grain of salt, take that as you will. He
What do
performed
you mean? That's not
miracle.
factual.
Well, I mean, it's kind of
I'm
like one of
teasing.
those Bible stories where it's like Noah literally like split the sea, you know?
Right.
Like,
Like,
I'm
was
not
that
saying
super offensive of me to say? Like, is there a lot of people, because you're saying this is in different countries, like, are there a lot of people who currently like super believe in this? Or is this like Santa Claus where it's like when you get older, you kind of understand that, like, well,
I think it's like the celebration of the festival, which I'm going to get into. Instead of like actually believing Krampus is going to come. Like, I think as you get older, like, you don't necessarily believe that Krampus is going to beat you like you would as a kid, or like, Santa's going to bring you presents as you would as a kid, but you still celebrate the holiday because it's part of your culture and your tradition. So, no, I don't
do
think
you think
people,
that's why they're nicer in other countries? Because they're like,
honestly,
I don't want Krampus to beat my ass.
literally and like naturally, not to go off topic here, but like when I was in Portugal for Thanksgiving, everyone was so nice there. And then I got back to the US and the customs, they were such assholes. And I was just like, wow, I am back into the hellhole. Like,
That sounds about right. We're
yeah,
literally in Krampus's mom's house, HEL.
seriously. So, by the Middle Ages, Saint Nicholas was one of the most beloved saints across Europe. The protector of children and sailors is what he was. His feast day, December 6th, became a time of gift giving, a tradition that laid the foundation of what we now recognize as Christmas. But as I stated before, it did change where in these other countries, they do celebrate St. Nicholas Day, whereas if we look at our calendars, it'll say like on the 6th, like it's St. Nicholas Day, but that is a very different day to us than it would be us celebrating Christmas, if you know what I mean. So and actually, so yet Christmas itself didn't start as a celebration of Christ's birth. Early Christians were hesitant to celebrate birthdays of even Jesus, and it wasn't until the third century that December 25th was chosen as the date likely to align with the Roman festival of Dia Solis Invite Nati, which is in a language, which means the day of the birth of the unconquered sun. This celebration marked the sun's return after the solstice, making it a fitting parallel to the birth of the Son of God. So that is how
Birth of
Christianity
Jesus.
chose. Yep. That's where Christianity decided that's where we're gonna put our Christmas, not on the 5th, bitch. We on the 20 or not on the yeah, we on the 25th. So, and
Yeah,
even
you know what? Because that would be way too close. Like we have Thanksgiving and then like the 5th, we have to worry about Krampus.
I know, right? Like there's a lot
Let's
going on
say
this
like
holiday.
that's too close.
Hmm.
I'm totally fucking with you though, because I feel like that's so insensitive. Oh.
Oh my
Wait, but
God.
in Portugal, do they celebrate off topic? Do they celebrate Thanksgiving?
They
Because you
do
were just
not.
there.
No, they don't, but they do
Yeah.
celebrate Christmas. Yeah, Thanksgiving
On
is a
the same
very
day, like
ah,
as us, or is it the 5th?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up. I genuinely don't know.
Could ask
I'm
your sister.
Yeah, I will. I'll be like, is there any Krampus holiday things happening right now? Like on the 5th and the 6th?
Now, is there, and again, if you have this coming up, ignore me. Is there any sightings? Like, is there any like chance he might be real, like Bigfoot, or am I a little excited for no reason?
I do have the answer to that question.
Yeah,
I
do it.
did go into it. I did really good this time taking notes, being like, what are the questions that are going to be asked me?
You're like,
So,
what's Mariah gonna say? Because she
what's she
always
gonna
knows something to
ask?
fucking say.
So, I have all the notes at the end, and I will reveal the
Okay,
answer
I'll shut the
then.
fuck up. So
Yeah,
sorry.
bitch. Yeah, bitch. Shut the fuck
I
up.
just got so excited because, like, I don't know. I think about like people talk about like Bigfoot coming in and like sweeping them off their feet, and I'm like, ooh, Krampus.
So, to continue on this crampin journey, we have to talk a little bit about the transformation of gift giving. So, gift giving, which is so central to today's Christmas, which we know is December 25th, has rooted in the story of the Magi who brought gifts to the infant Jesus. Magi, I believe, were the three wise men who traveled all the way to the manger to provide gifts to Jesus. By the 18th century, however, the exchange of presents was widespread, though it was not without controversy, as you probably remember. The church didn't even want to celebrate birthdays or anything. But along with that, Puritans in England and America once banned Christmas altogether, deeming it too pagan and too wild. But the figure of Saint Nicholas endured, morphing over the centuries into jolly old Santa Claus, who we know today, who is very different from who actually Saint Nick was. Because Saint Nicholas had nothing to do with Christmas. He was just a saint who was really good and provided to his people. Today, more modernly, and again, this is something that doesn't really celebrate as much here in the US as we celebrate it on the 25th, but children will put a boot called the Nicholas Steffel or a Nicholas boot outside their front door on the night of December 5th, and St. Nicholas would fill the boot with gifts and sweets overnight. And at the same time, checks up on the children to see if they were good, polite, or helpful. If not, they would have a stick in their boot instead.
Oh no.
You really thought I was gonna
Jeez.
be like up their ass.
No, I'm just like, could you imagine you wake up and you see a stick? You're like, oh no, I know what's gonna happen.
Well, hopefully, better to get a stick in your boot than be beaten by a stick by Krampus.
Oh, okay. It was one or the other. I thought that was like a warning. It was a warning stick. I'm like, oh
No.
no.
So this is just kind of like more talking about just like how gift giving kind of evolved because just to kind of get, to get the full circle of Christmas and like this December 5th St. Nicholas Day or sorry, December 6th St. Nicholas Day holiday, I think it's like important to note that there were a lot of traditions revolving this day that are very different than well, I shouldn't even say our traditional, but our version of Christmas, which is on December of
25.
yeah. Jeez. All right.
That's
So
Christmas.
so today as we go through this tale of darkness and light. The story of Krampus is chilling yet fascinating, and it's a reminder of where holiday traditions really come from, beneath the glitter of this tinsel and warm family gatherings, as we so know as Christmas or St. Nicholas Day. There is an ancient memory of darker, colder times. Krampus embodies the primal fear, the consequences of wrongdoing, and the shadow that balances the light. So that's really what the story between St. Nicholas and Krampus is. He's more than just the boogeyman for the naughty children. Like the gods of the old, he did have a purpose. And what was that purpose? He is on core of truth. Krampus isn't evil, but he's balance because you can't have good without bad.
A yin and yang.
A yin and yang. So Krampus is St. Nicholas's yang to his yin.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, right? And I really genuinely enjoyed studying some of this because it was really interesting. So as good children receive gifts, the naughty children receive the punishment. He acts against bad behavior,
I'm so
correcting the
sorry. I'm so sorry, but it's like, yeah, there's balance. There's always has to be good and evil, and then you're like, so anyway, he would beat the children, and I'm like, wait.
correction. I said as children receives gifts, good children, the naughty children will get the punishment. So
Oh god.
So what Krampus is doing, he's correcting the error, mirroring the good. He's a form of justice in a very primal sort of way. The horns, fur, tongue, it's all meant to evoke power, to make his presence felt in spirit, along with like the physical, like him being there. So,
Oh,
so anyway, so that's just a little bit about.
I'm now scared of Krampus.
Oh, wait till you hear this shit. We're getting into
Okay.
the next part. So now we're going to talk about Krampusnacht, which you had asked earlier about just like the legend and like how things go when it terms to. I'm sorry, this part is just like I could just picture it in my head, and like as a child, I would literally shit my pants.
So
So,
this is what children are told.
no, this is like something that happens every year. It's like a festival.
Oh God.
Um, so
Okay.
Krampusnacht, so imagine this. You're at a festival and you're getting chased by hundreds of people dressed as Krampus.
Shut up.
So it's called Krampusnacht. It's a night of terror and fun. So Krampusnacht, and to spell it, so I'm not saying it, I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's spelt Krampusnacht. So it's celebrated annually on December 5th across Germany, Austria, and other parts of Europe, reaching even as far as Australia, and you probably could guess the United fucking States of America. And the reason why it's gotten so hot over here in the US, I'll get into it more, is because of this commercialization of, the Krampus movie when you had said, this is the only thing I know about Krampus.
Oh.
So it's no quiet evening. Instead, people are gathered in the street dressed as the devilish Krampus with grotesque masks, curling horns, and shaggy fur. The highlight of the evening, Krampushlauf, which is spelled Krampuslauf, which in translated to English means the Krampus run. So imagine this, people often fortified by alcohol, wearing monstrous costumes, parade through the streets, rattling chains, brandishing bundles of birch twigs known as the rootin, so what he beats the children with. And they aren't just props, they serve as the symbolic purpose as they were traditionally used to whip naughty children into behaving. In modern times, Krampus may hand the bundles to children as a reminder that even after he leaves, they should remember his visit. So it's an exhilarating yet terrifying where participants are chasing onlookers. Though it may seem like chaos, the event has deep roots in preserving cultural heritage dating back centuries. Give you a
You just
little
have a screenshot of my face for Instagram.
honestly, it's like Literally, like you're just watching these people dressed up as this huge hairy beast chasing you down the street. And like I said, like it's not that they believe that Krampus is real. It's more about the cultural significance and how far it's dated back in this legend and in their culture that it's really important to them to like do things like that. So, and I will go into the psychology of children who, like is it really right to be scaring kids with like this level of like a malevolent anti-Santa? So we'll get into that in a bit, but
So
so
for quick clarification on this date that you're talking about, basically it's like Halloween,
yes.
but parents take their kids out like to like the cities where anybody can just dress like Krampus and
Yeah.
like
There's just
they just
Krampus
start.
running all over the city.
And also the other thing I think of that comes to mind and like there's so many weirdos in the world, like there's gotta be people getting off to this. Like
I mean, probably. I think for them, I think, like anything, any culture, like I think they're the good eggs that are like taking it with like the actual cultural significance of what the day really means. He is the darkness to Saint Nicholas's light. And literally in all the articles I read, you said it like head right on the nail right on the head. You said they're yin and yang. That's how they really are referred to is like they aren't evil or good. They're really like balance. Like there needs to be the two to create the balance of the world. So there are the people that celebrate that, but then yeah, there are probably the other creepy people and that's also part of the commercialization of this whole thing and the cultural appropriation that it's actually started to create. There's a lot of controversy on that, which we'll get into. It's pretty interesting. Um,
is they have on this day, because it's all about balance, good and evil.
Mhm.
And so we have this evil entity and we're dressing up as him and chasing little kids. Do they also, on the flip side, then, to balance it out, dress as Saint Nicholas and like be good? Or is it just this kind of Halloween-esque day?
So I do believe that there are both Saint Nicholas and Krampus. I think the two distinguishing factors is that Saint Nicholas was actually a real person at one point
Yeah,
versus Krampus has always been seen as this figurative figure that represents like you should be good this year.
gotcha.
But I do, when I was looking at pictures and articles, like there are people that dress up in both, but I don't know how prevalent the like dressing up as Saint Nicholas is compared to the Krampus. Like the Krampus run is like just the
The
people
Krampus.
it's literally like adults getting blackout drunk and running down the street in
I
costumes.
need to look this up. I'm looking this up as you continue.
Oi. So now we're gonna get into that, this run dated back centuries, but now we're getting into the modern day Krampus and that resurgence. Oh, her face. She just looked it up. Isn't it crazy?
Megan, you need to post this on social. This is fucking
Oh, I
scary.
trust me. I already queued up our social for that week. I have all the pictures.
Holy fuck. This is the scariest thing I've ever seen. It's like more scary than Halloween.
It's fucking awesome. I love it. It's so
It's
cool.
awesome. I was gonna say awful because I'm terrified, but yeah.
I think so. They have Krampus runs in the US. Do we want to go to one?
Do they have one near us? We could go this
Tec
weekend. We were just talking.
Technically, Chicago
I
is the
wonder if
home of Krampus. So, want to take a trip to Chicago?
this
The
weekend
US
we'll
version.
talk about it. I pencil you in, you pencil me in.
Yeah. So Krampus resurgence in the late 20th century is nothing short but of remarkable. You had mentioned earlier, you only know him from a movie, but before that movie came out and other small like short films, like no one really knew about the tradition of Krampus unless they were part of the culture and the areas that celebrated it. So films like the 2015 horror comedy Krampus introduced the creature to a global audience, showcasing him in this modern cinematic light. And he's no longer just this relic of European folklore. He is now a pop cultural art icon appearing in TV shows, literature, and comic books. As people traveled from Austria and Germany, they brought Krampus stories with them, sharing it with new cultures. The spread helped take the evolve and become embraced in unexpected places and ways. Again, disciplining this dark and light theory. Festivals and parades, obviously, we have the Krampus run. So across Europe and now parts of the US, Krampus parades have become an annual spectacle. Cities like Salzburg and Vienna hold elaborate Krampulofs. Again, apologies, I'm not pronouncing, this isn't my native language.
Sounds
Um,
good to me.
where entire communities come together to dress in these costumes, often turning the night into a mix of fear, laughter, and festivity. The oldest Krampus run actually still takes place in Tobolach, Austria, with a notable parade in Castellant, Lana, and Sexton. So again, if you know where these places are, you should go. So it's now kind of more an entertainment piece. Another thing is this merchandise. Krampus images have become a holiday staple for those drawn to this dark Santa. His face is embolized on sweaters, ornaments, greeting cards, and we're going to get into these not ancient, these traditional postcards that ended up having it. So in reality, the Krampusnacht reminds us of the holiday season and the sugary treats, but it's a time to also reflect on the rewards and consequences of our actions. That's really what the tale of Krampus is about. It's more than just a scary story. It's supposed to be a legend. And just to kind of get into it, um, I want to give you a Krampusnacht timeline. So back in the 1500s, John J. Hageman writes about the festival where horned devils terrorize a street where he was in a town in Austria. By the 1800s, Christmas card with Krampus ended up, surfacing, which are these traditional postcards. These will be on our social media as well. You can see them there. By 1932, Krampusnacht was banned in Austria, and the celebration was banned under the Dollfuss government and was also so it basically they distributed pamphlets saying that Krampus is evil, we cannot celebrate this. But then by the 1950s, Krampusnacht is revived and people continue to celebrate it. So Krampus versus Saint Nicholas. So, as part of our next segment, I do want to just give a PSA to those who celebrate Judaism or are Jewish. This is just truly fact. I'm not trying to say that this is true or by any means. This is just fact. So please don't sue me. So there is a little bit more, another dark side of Krampus, which is according to scholars like Sarah Lipton, Krampus' grotesque features, which I have more details into what he looked like, but I did want to talk about the symbolism. His hooked nose, long beard, and devilish appearance mirror the asthmatic stereotypes found in European art from Middle Ages. And in medieval Christian Europe, Jews were often depicted as devilish figures. So, artistic representations of Krampus alongside with Saint Nicholas emphasizes those contrasts between good and evil. As you know, Saint Nicholas depicts the good, jolly, rosy cheeks, um, where Krampus is has these grotesque, exaggerated features that resembled those used to do character. What am I trying to?
Caricatures?
Thank you. So like I was saying, Saint Nicholas, he was always depicted as this sweet, jolly old rosy-cheeked man, whereas Krampus had these grotesque, exaggerated features that were these
Caricatures.
thank you, uh, that used to be portrayed of Jews. So they tap into like centuries of anti-Semitic imagery where Jews were portrayed as threats to Christian society. Well, there's really no definitive evidence that Krampus was explicitly intended to be an anti-Semitic figure. Excuse me, the parallels are a little bit difficult to ignore, especially with all the suffering that Jewish people have genuinely endured in life. Um,
I know, I was like, As you clear your throat with champagne, I was gonna say, like, damn, did like Hitler fucking create this caricature? Because
Yeah.
why are they singled out? That's crazy,
Well, I
right?
can,
But then again, like you said, you don't know when this depiction of Krampus was created. So, okay, get
right.
into it. Get into the parallels, or as you were just saying.
Yeah. It so yeah, so again, so there's no set like definitive reason that Krampus like because like we said, we know that Krampus was pre-Christian paganistic times that date like centuries ago. So no one really truly knows where Krampus came from. They do have this obviously this evolved legend that has come forth. We have the Krampus run. But there are people that are genuinely speculating that Krampus does in some of the images look like how the negative caricatures that I can't pronounce for some fucking reason
Mhm.
of Jewish people are. So it's hard. So now we'll get into kind of like what he actually looks like because I know you guys are all very curious. So he has has a horned head and devilish grimace. Krampus heads on top Krampus's head curled these two large horns twisted like those of a goat or a ram. His face is grotesque, part human, part demon, with sharp fangs, piercing eyes that glint with this it's always been just like from the notes I was reading, he always has this malevolent grimace on his face. His expression is always one of cruel delight, a sinister smile that promises punishment. He has on the lower half of his body cloven hooves that stomp the ground, while his long snake-like tongue slithers out, swaying in his movements. Um, he has the juxtaposition of a human torso and goat-like legs. So I forget what that's called in Narnia, like half goat, half human.
Oh
There's
my
like a thing.
God,
You
I
know what I'm
love those things too, and I can't remember.
So whatever that term is, that's yeah, that's what it is.
Fuck, I
Um
love that guy in Narnia.
so and then as you mentioned like he has these draped over his back. He'll have this large sack or basket vessel not for gifts but abducting misbehaving children and to keep his sticks to children with. He also has these chains that are all around him, occasionally in stories, and it was prevalent in the actual Krampus movie, is that some of the chains have bells on them, so like Christmas bells, but they're not good Christmas bells, they're bad Christmas bells. So the legend also states that Krampus doesn't also just looks scary, but he has a lot of like supernatural powers. And again, the some of these could be from the movie because I know in the movie like CGI like made it seem like he could do all these things. So take this part again with a grain of salt. So, Krampus is said to possess inhumane strength, great speed, and the ability to leap great distances. And some tales even attribute him with black magic and the ability to manipulate toys into sinister weapons, which we did see in the movie. Sorry, spoiler alert. And the power to conjure blizzards. Again, same thing. Above that, he can literally sense sins, terrifying for anyone who's ever trying to hide their misdeeds. So
Like,
even if you try to lie to Krampus, he don't believe you. So, and as Krampus kind of became entwined with this Christianity during the Middle Ages, his appearance did begin to shift. So no longer just this animalistic figure, he took more on of human features resembling the Christian devil. So, like I said, Christianity was really trying to get away from this, Krampus as a whole, but when they decided they couldn't get rid of it, he kind of, he did kind of grow into just being described differently, more to look like the devil instead of like Krampus. So over time, the association with the devil led to Krampus and it declined in popularity. So that was just a brief like middle age time. And by the 20th century, he was almost entirely forgotten. Um, only to the remote Alpine villages, but like we said, in recent years, he's made an extraordinary comeback. So, like I said, he's become this global icon. He's in movies, TV shows, and so one thing I want to bring forward, and I mentioned earlier, was the creepy holiday greeting. So it is going to be posted on our social media, but some of the earliest depictions of Krampus can be found on these vintage Christmas postcards from the late 19th and early 20th century. And these postcards are often hand colored and are ornate, showing Krampus whipping naughty children, stuffing them into his sack, or dragging them to his lair, though
Not
they
stuffing
fell.
them into the sack.
Like, yep, that's just what he did. He was like, I ain't playing with you bitches.
Like, I'm
Uh,
gonna be making an apple pie out of this bitch.
yeah, literally. So they did fall out of fashion in mid-century, but they did make a comeback, and I'll show you, and I will tell you how. Um, so how did Krampus become part of the US? So again, we celebrate Christmas on a very different day. We do it on the 25th, and we don't have this fifth, the night before St. Nicholas Day. So it all started with a graphic designer named Monty Beauchamp, who is unknowingly becoming one of the first influential figures in Krampus's rise to fame in the United States. The story goes that Beauchamp was fascinated by an old European art, again, creepy old postcard received from a friend pre-World War One postcards featuring none other than Krampus, and these vintage Krampusnacht postcards with their dark, intricate designs, and obviously seeing something that he was like, whoa, this is Christmas. So in 2004, Bidchamp compiled these postcards into a book titled The Devil in Design, the Krampus Postcards, which showcase rare 19th century Krampus postcards along with the history of postcard industry that helped him with this process. So the book's release sparked curiosity and soon shows like Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations and Supernatural sought to feature Krampus in their episodes. In 2010, Beauchamp followed up with another book, The Krampus, the Devil of Christmas, which cemented his role in bringing Krampus into the cultural spotlight. And again, this all took place in Chicago. So, though it's hard to say how much Beauchamp was like alone responsible for the Krampus craze, it exploded across pop culture after that. So Krampus began appearing in video games, TV shows, and most notably, obviously, the 2015 horror film, which introduced a new character to future fans. So now he's only going to go bigger from here when people watch this movie.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
And
So,
a quick question about the
yep.
looks of him. We you would spoke about what he looked like a little while back. I was not sure what the connection between what you were saying he looked like and Judaism was.
So culturally, and again, this is just stereotypes, Jewish people were always like painted in a certain light to look a certain way. So they have a bit of this in, I think it's Family Guy. Jewish
Of
people
course, you would say that.
love that show. Jewish people, I guess, notoriously have bigger noses than other people. So the way that certain features on Krampus look, where people speculated that the way Krampus was drawn was like in a way to almost like criticize Jews for the way that they looked.
So
Uh,
the only thing really was just like a bigger nose. Is that the
Yeah, and like always just having these like grotesque kind of features. I think if you look at like old Jewish art, like depictions of Jewish people and like way old art, I think you'll see there's a lot of like, I don't want to say racism, but like obviously anti-Semitism, I think is what it's
Yeah.
called. So that's, why it kind of
No, I get you. Okay, that
resurfaced,
makes a
I
lot
guess.
more sense. I was just like, you saying like they have a disgusting face, that does not scream Judaism to me.
Right. Like
So
I
I
think it's
had to
rooted.
clarify because I was like, what
Yeah.
about it is.
Yeah, so I think it's like it's a lot of speculation and it's rooted in like long-term anti-Semitism, which again, it's so sad that stuff like that even goes on. And again, that was just like one article, that it was a good source that had said that. So
Okay, it just like looks similar. It's
yeah,
not a definitive thing that it's connected at all. Just
right. And
gotcha.
I think I
Okay,
wrote
well,
that
glad
in
I
my
cleared that up then.
Yeah, and I think I wrote that in my note. Like, it's not like historically or like factually like proven because, like I said, we don't really know where Krampus even came from, and his looks over time started to change. So he went from looking like this beastly, animalistic creature from this Alpine folklore legend to, according to like the Christianity's form of it, and like as in I guess the Middle Ages Krampus started to look more like a devil. And I think when he started to look more like a devil is when these anti-Semitic caricatures of these of Krampus to look like these negative connotations of Jewish people kind of arose because it was like the fight between Christianity and Judaism, if that makes sense. Um,
Yep.
so more controversy though with Krampus. How much time we got left? Okay. So the legend of Krampus is as captivating as it is unsettling, but is Krampus a harmless reminder of this folklore dark side, or does his violent imagery have actual consequences? So again, so you have to put yourself in this position. Imagine being a child and hearing about a creature who punishes the naughty, not with coal and a stocking, but with birch sticks and chains, or worse, by dragging you to hell. For some children, the figure of Krampus is a nightmare to life, you know? Like, imagine being like a
Megan, you really threw me off there when you said, or worse, by dragging you to hell. I was like putting myself in my childhood state where I'm like sitting in bed and I'm like, I should ask, did Megan ever think she was gonna get cold? Because sometimes I used to worry about that. And then you're like, yeah, can you imagine like being having the fear of being dragged to hell? And I'm like, oh my God,
you're going to
that's
bed tonight and
crazy.
you're not sleeping. You're not sleeping tonight. You're going to be too worried
Because
about
yeah,
being dragged to
I
hell.
genuinely I remember like being nervous, like, oh, was I good enough to not get cold? Like have you had that experience?
Oh yeah, but obviously I never got
Do you
cold
imagine
because
if you grew up somewhere where like Krampus was a thing and you're like, instead of, oh no, I hope I don't get cold, it's like, I hope I don't get dragged to the depths of hell.
no, it literally, and that's why it brings up this psychological idea is does the fear of Krampus encourage genuine good behavior or does it create anxiety-driven compliance?
Oh
So
my
in,
God, both easily.
instead of fostering a desire to be good for goodness sakes, it can lead to fear of punishment. And this idea supported by researchers Johnson and Kruger, who discuss this concept of supernatural punishment in religion, where fear of retribution often outweighs the desire to act victoriously. And that goes for honestly every religion. I mean, I think I brought this up in a religion class once. I was like, I sometimes feel like back when I was in high school people are driven to be good based on their religion and not because they're trying to be good people. They're just trying to be good to get into heaven someday. They're like, I have to do good deeds in order
No.
to get into a better afterlife after this. Instead of being like, you know what? I'm a good person and I'm put on this earth to be a good person and I'm going to help those around me. So again, that's why this whole story about Krampus is so interesting. It just has this religious, psychological view that you never really would have thought of.
Yeah,
So,
no, I wouldn't have.
so from a psychological perspective and behavior theorists, they suggest that Krampus meets the pragmatic need to reinforce good behavior through the threat of punishment. But Godsey, another researcher, argues that the fear of punishment can be as damaging as the punishment itself. It can create rigid belief systems where love and approval feel conditional, reinforcing the mindset where children behave not because it's right, but to avoid consequences. So
Yeah.
that's one of the first big controversies with Krampus. That along with it's unsettling caricatures and also just the fact that he's like this scary ass demon that will drag you to hell. Um,
You think there was a Lexapro shortage now in the USA? Try bringing Krampus into the picture. No Lexapro. No, no Zoloft.
nope. Oh, imagine there's like a Christmas demon that just takes everyone's meds away.
The nerve.
Oh my God. So,
Krampus, you son of a bitch. Please
oh
don't
my God.
strike me down, please.
Okie dokie, guys. Thank you so much for bearing with us thus far. So, another thing that's a big controversial piece that I just want to touch upon with Krampus is the culture appropriation. So, its growing popularity in the US raises this other question. Have we turned this ancient tradition into a commercialized spectacle? Originally, Krampus was deeply rooted in these Alpine regions where his companion Saint Nick was very far removed from the jolly old Santa Claus. Like I said, he is not anything like Santa Claus. They're two very separate entities, very two separate people. But the rise of this consumerism, the appropriation of Krampus was pretty much inevitable. You know, this campus run where people dress up as Krampus and parade through the streets kind of has been turned into this US drinking holiday. You know, that's where, it's become more Halloween-like celebration, embraced not just for,
What?
So a lot of people in the
The
US do it.
US? Never.
Yeah, like why would we do
What?
that?
An excuse to drink? That's crazy. We love
So
our lives over here. We would never do that.
never. We don't appropriate anything. And it's kind of sad because it's no longer, at least in the US, it's not embraced for the cultural aspect, but it's like the roots of the entertainment value. So, and Hollywood
For
too.
sure.
It's capitalized on Krampus, the 2015 film Krampus introduced to a much broader audience, turning him into basically a horror movie star. So, and to, leave us off on a good note, Mariah had asked a very important question at the beginning of the podcast, and she asked, is he real like Bigfoot? Does he exist?
Thank you. I was worried you would skip it.
Nope, I have her in here. I have her at the end. So that is the
Give
question, right?
it.
Is Krampus just a fun myth or something more? On the surface, Krampus
This is
is a
why we're here,
this is
Megan.
yeah, it is a fun myth from this folkloric figure from the Alpine regions of Austria and Germany, meant to scare children into behaving, but there's also something more. His reflection of our fascination with balance between good and evil, the playful and frightening. For hundreds of years, Krampus has been both a figure of fear and amusement. Those sightings of Krampus, unlikely cryptids like Bigfoot, remain rooted in folklore rather than physical evidence. His legend does have a spooky story. So there actually hasn't been any true sightings of Krampus like there have been, with Bigfoot. So I'm sorry to break it to you. There have been some, strange happenings. So some have even linked Krampus to being a cryptoid, like Bigfoot, a mysterious creature whose existence remains unproven, but endlessly speculated about. But unlike Bigfoot, there are no close call videos, blurry photos of Krampus. His presence lives more in the imagination as a folkloric figure rather than a cryptoid to be hunted. However, there was a strange modern sighting. So this happened in, I think, 2017. So this woman, she was a radio host on this 107.3 KFFM radio station, and she shared a very weird experience where she was preparing to actually watch the 2015 Krampus movie, and she received a message from a listener who recorded like this terrifying sound, and according to the woman, she was like, this sounds like straight out of like a horror film. And what was weird is that it was coming through her radio channel. And she didn't like authorize it, so she was freaking out. So she dragged her husband and was like, we need to go check this out. It was like this weird sound coming through the airways. As it turned out, it was actually just a corrupt audio file but she felt the
God
need to
damn it.
share it. I know. So she felt the need to share it though because she thought it was so weird because it was right around Christmas. She was about to watch the Krampus movie, and from like everything she's seen about Krampus, the sound she was hearing on these airwaves sounded exactly like how Krampus sounded to her. So, a little, to end with it, I just want to say, so we covered a lot today. Krampus really is part of Saint Nicholas's Day. So December 5th and 6th is culturally when it's celebrated. We know Saint Nicholas is now different from Santa Claus, so don't get those two confused no more, bitches. And yeah, so what do you think?
I just, I just am in shock. I am sad in a way that it's like, okay, there's not this mysterious creature that we can be on the lookout for like Bigfoot, but also it's probably for the best because this sounds terrifying and it looks terrifying and it's pretty much, the devil, which is scary.
Yup.
I will say, if you did want to be a part of this Krampus run, for those who don't know me very well, I'm a fucking scaredy cat. I
It's ironic
probably
because
won't
you
do this even
love The
if you paid
Conjuring.
me. I know. But there is a place nearby us, Megan, that we could literally buy tickets to this weekend as we're hanging out. And it is a Krampus fest. And it's scary. It's like a haunted house, but for Krampus.
Dude, we're going. We have to do real life
You
research.
don't understand. I will cry. Look at this. I'm trying to show her some pictures.
Oh, that's
That
nothing.
is terrifying. That's nothing. Are you kidding me?
I
I
love
am
scary
scared.
stuff.
I hate it. I really do. It's crazy because I love like the real scary stuff, like actual paranormal stuff. But like the fake boogeyman like costume, I can't do. I don't know what it is.
I think the idea is if you're prepared, I don't know. I feel like if we're prepared knowing that there's going to be Krampuses running at us, like I'd be fine. But I think if it was
I
like
can't do with a running
unsolicited,
Krampus. I'm
like
gonna
just
get a Krampus in my side running away.
like literally that's what I'm saying. Like when I first told you it's crazy. Like kids would literally like I don't know, I'm speculating, but I'm sure kids shit themselves like seeing
I
some
would absolutely.
beast running after them.
You kidding me? They're like, Mom,
Especially if
you hate
alcohol's
me.
involved, people are like even crazier.
Dude. I'd be like, my mom fucking hates me if she's bringing me to one of these things. And like, no disrespect if that's like a culture and fun for you guys. Like, if it's like Halloween for us, but like, I don't even like Halloween when people fucking run after me. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
and
love
that's
Halloween, but like, don't run after me.
Yeah, and that's like the interesting part, right? It's like it is really rooted in culture and like the legend. And so it's been over commercialized here and it's more of like an entertainment purposes for us. But I feel like if you're so segmented and rooted in that culture, it wouldn't be as like much of a I don't know. I'm also speculating again. Maybe you're still scared, but I feel like you're more adapted to it maybe a little bit.
Dude, even if we had a Bigfoot day, I'd be terrified.
Oh my God, I would love a
Don't run
Bigfoot
at me if
day.
you're in a costume. Don't run after me if you're in a costume.
Ugh, oh my God. Well, that's Krampus
Anyway,
for you. That's
thank you
Krampus.
for all of that information. I'm literally gonna have dreams about this now.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to get so many texts tomorrow morning about how you couldn't sleep because you were too scared of
Because I
Krampus
was
coming.
envisioning Krampus beating me with a stick.
No, I'm
Thanks.
literally gonna get a text at like December 5th in a couple days, and you're gonna be like, dude, what
Yeah.
like what do I do? Put salt by the door?
You're gonna be like, are we gonna buy those tickets to go to the Krampus Fest? And I'm gonna be like, shove it up your ass, Megan. I'm not going.
And
It's
then I
my birthday
you.
weekend. It's my
I don't care. I'm a Leo. It's all about me.
yeah. Oh
Uh,
God.
well, let us know
Anyway,
what you
we have
think,
some
guys.
exciting stuff coming up where, well, we don't know. We're gonna hang out soon and cover a different topic, one that's not so scary.
Or is it?
Well, It is scary, but in like a real life way, not in like a Krampus is gonna come to everybody's house kind of way. It's scary in like a, oh man, this is very sad. I'm sad. I really wish I could help way.
Yeah, totes my goats.
So
So
terrible way to leave you guys off of, but sorry.
it's called a cliffhanger, bitches.
As always, you guys, keep it real, keep it freaky, keep it naturally.
Naturally.